Okay, welcome back. I'm Ray. This is Ollie.
This is the only podcast that matters.
It is.
We're going to do a little mini episode.
Between our big deep dives, we're going to do some fun little episodes.
Yeah.
And today, in theme with the introducing what punk was, our first episode, we talked about what it was. And we're going to talk today about 10 people who aren't punk that are very punk. 10 non-punks that are super punk.
They weren't necessarily part of the punk movement.
They don't look punk.
But they lived it, man.
Punk as fuck.
Yeah.
So we're going to do our top 10. We each picked 5.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about this yet.
Do you want me to go with the one I said on the first episode to start?
Yeah, let's alternate.
Alternate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
you start.
So on the first episode, I brought this one up, and I just want to do a little bit more on this, but Simone Biles.
Yeah.
So punk. Simone Biles was, what is she the best gymnast ever?
Like, she's invented all kinds of her own tricks and stuff.
She literally has multiple tricks named after her because no one's been able to do them but her.
Right.
She's in the Olympics. She's got the world's eyes on her, all this pressure. This is what she's trained her whole life for. And she is not doing well mentally. And it's becoming a little bit of a danger to her physically because what can happen is it's called like getting lost or something. If you're mid-spin and you sort of lose your place.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's like a phenomenon that only gymnasts really experience.
Because your brain's not supposed to do that?
Yeah, because it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's blowing your mind what you're doing. And she was dealing with this, and it was a physical risk, and it was a mental risk, and she wasn't doing well. And she said, everyone's going to hate me, and I'm not supposed to do this, and this is not a thing that's allowed, but I am backing out to take care of my mental health.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that everyone in the world decides to talk shit, trying to make her feel bad, try to guilt trip her, act like this is something that's not allowed, as if she doesn't have the freedom to make her own decisions.
Right.
She said, I have the freedom to make my own decision. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to stand up to society putting pressure on me. And that is so punk rock.
Yeah. I don't belong to anybody but me.
Yes. She took care of herself. Yeah. Which is, especially for like a black woman, like men are allowed to do that a lot more.
Yes.
Men get away with putting themselves first.
Yeah. A
lot more than women do. And white men especially get to decide what's good and bad for them more than other demographics of people.
Yeah.
And she was like, nope, this is my call. I'm doing what's right for me. And then she went and did it. She took care of herself. She came back and she served again.
Kicked ass.
She did it because she's punk for doing that. She's super punk. And she didn't... She kind of talked shit a little bit. Like, obviously, it affected her a little bit that people were, like, running their mouths and disappointed and angry and whatever. But she also has this quote where she's like, they were yelling at me for leaving the Olympics and they can't do a cartwheel. I'm going to listen to a guy who can't do a cartwheel talk about my gymnast career. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And so she's one of the more recent examples of punk that I think we have. So that's my first one.
All right, my first one is also a Simone. Nina Simone.
Oh my God, I know what I'm doing next. I know what I'm doing for my next one because it's very related to this. Yes.
So Nina Simone was a mostly blues singer, I would say.
Yeah,
pianist.
She's a pianist first and foremost, and then she sort of she didn't mean to transition into singing.
No, I think
she was sort of pressured into it. But
she literally never took any shit from the record labels. They wanted her to do all these different things and go a certain way, and they wanted to put her in a box, and she would not have it.
Yeah.
On top of that, her music and the way that she looks at the camera when she's having a photo or a film done is so intense and emotional and unnerving.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the way that John Lydon would like interact with the crowd and just like glare them down.
Interesting, which is Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols.
So there's a video of her playing one of her songs and she just stares into you and it makes me physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's
not in a bad way, just like, oh my God, like so raw emotion.
It's a little scary.
Raw power.
Yeah, that's interesting because now I know who I'm gonna do next. I had Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Okay.
Which was a little bit before Nina Simone.
Yeah.
He was, so this is interesting. On my personal Instagram account recently, because it was Halloween, I like to put up little polls and like play games and stuff on my Instagram. I love like engaging. It's
you
very
have a fun Instagram.
You know what? Social media is a very toxic place for a lot of people, but it is such a place of joy for me. I don't follow or let anyone follow me that I don't think roots for me. I go on there. I have a lot of fun. I follow a lot of artists and comedians and people I love, and it's a very fun place. So I play a lot of games and like do a lot of interacting with my followers on my stories. And I put up a poll. I put a spell on you, Screamin' Jay Hawkins or Nina Simone.
Yeah.
And it was about split.
Yeah.
And a few people in my DMs were like, this isn't fair. And I was like, the way this is an Instagram account. But it's not that important. Like, pick one. They're like, I can't choose. I'm like, don't vote.
Then don't. Yeah.
Honestly,
swipe on.
A lot of people voted Nina Simone, and I am a big Nina fan. And I think, again, we're talking about a black woman being ruled by white men in the production of that time, and them telling her what to do, and her paycheck relying on the music industry being run by people who were not so long ago in charge of much more of her life.
Yeah.
And Screamin' Jay Hawkins is a black man.
Yeah.
And it's his song. So I Put a Spell on You is a Screamin' Jay Hawkins song. And my favorite singer-songwriter of all times is Tom Waits. Mm-hmm. And Tom Waits, the first time I heard Screamin' Jay Hawkins, I'm like, oh, he didn't invent
Tom Waits
the whole thing.
Yeah.
It came from another person. And then I instantly obviously love Screamin' Jay Hawkins. But I put up a poll and a lot of people can choose. And I love Nina, and I will always enjoy that version. And I love listening to her, but to me that is so obviously a Screamin' Jay song. Mm-hmm. To me, I was like, I get why it's kind of hard, and yet it's very obvious that I Put a Spell on You, like what the song is, what it's about, how it was written to be. It's a Screamin' Jay song.
Yeah.
It's his song. And then a lot of people, I think just a little bit more than half voted Nina, and I was like,
I was one of the Nina voters.
You voted Nina, and I was like, I hope y'all vote better on the upcoming election than you did on this, because I'm not happy with you. But I think a lot of people don't know Screamin' Jay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who voted Nina were not familiar with Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
I just see the name Nina Simone and my eyes glaze over.
And I know, and that's, I think a lot of people see Nina and pick it, and then stop and go listen to his version.
Oh, I know his version, and it's great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
To me, if I want to listen to Nina, I put Nina on. But if I want to listen to that song,
it's the Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Like, if that's on an album, I'm not going to skip it and put him on.
Yeah.
But if I'm, like, in the mood for... I love Halloween... creepy, spooky stuff, right? Like, it's a good...
Do you know what comes up on the Screamin' Jay Hawkins Spotify station?
The Crypt Kickers, who wrote the Monster Mash.
Yeah, just banger after banger after banger.
A whole album. People think the Monster Mash is a silly little album.
No.
But it's actually...
Scully Gully's a stone cold hit.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
I love Scully. There's an entire album. It's by Boris Prickett and the Crypt Kickers. And it's got the Monster Mash.
Yeah.
And it also has, like, 10 other... because they're not just writing spooky Halloween songs. It's like a very good super group of like famous like blues musicians and writers. Like, it's a super group of very talented musicians who just did this little...
And their name is punk rock as fuck. The Crypt Kickers. Let's go.
I would like to rewrite history and like maybe...
Make that your band.
That's my band.
So is Screamin' Jay Hawkins your second one?
So Screamin' Jay.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
I think my next one is going to have to be, and this is sort of an obvious choice, but Anthony Bourdain.
Good. That's not obvious to me. It didn't even occur to me, and it's so good.
The way he lived his life, obviously he was a chef, and he lived, a lot of chefs like to live outside the box on the fringes of society, and he really, really leaned into that, and like he really lived his life, whether it was through drug use, through the shows and the music that he used to go listen to. He was friends with Johnny Thunders, and they would hang out and do heroin together and stuff like that.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, it checks out.
I have a picture of him and Debbie Harry eating dinner together. That is my favorite thing in the world.
That's amazing. Yeah. Didn't even occur to me that.
So obviously he was involved in the punk rock scene as well.
Yeah.
But he just like... The way that he writes about people and loving people and experiencing things, I think is very outside the box and a little bit against the norm. And he really encourages people to experience things and to open their eyes. So I love that about him.
Yeah, he did it in his own way.
Yeah.
His shows about food were completely different than any other. Yeah. There was cooking shows.
Yeah.
But there aren't shows about the culture of food.
Yeah.
And him traveling. The way, he like sort of he invented like a new type of food show. And his writing and his lifestyle. Yeah. And his origins.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like a Michelin star chef.
No.
He was like a line cook.
He was a dishwasher and then a line cook.
Yeah, he was a dishwasher first. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my confirmation name, because I was tricked into I was like not into it and I didn't want to be Catholic. but my little sister was born when I was 16, and my mom said, well, if you get confirmed, you can be her godmother. And I was like, nobody else is going to be her godmother.
Wow.
But now, later in life, that's never come up, and I'm her older sister, and there's no other bond like that.
You don't really need that extra.
No, mom tricked me.
She got you good, though.
Oh, she got me good.
Yeah.
But this was right around the time I had started getting very into punk rock.
Yeah.
And I bought a book of all the saints. And I went to Catholic school, so I knew a lot of them. And I'm flipping through this book, and I'm like, I'm not going to pick some bullshit thing. Like, I was like, I was really picky. I was like, I'm not just going to pick some fucking name. Like, I was like trying to find a way to make it mine. My confirmation name is Rose because I found Saint Rose of Lima.
Okay.
Saint Rose of Lima is from Lima, and she was, on top of being a kind and generous and giving person, and she was made a saint for a reason, but she was like the prettiest girl in town. She was like strikingly beautiful, and everybody like fawned over her, and she was like, that's not the part that I identify with. Wait. Wait till the part where she's punk. I don't think I'm the most beautiful girl in town. What's punk about it is she got really pissed off that people are just looking at her as this pretty woman.
Yeah.
And this like dainty little thing. And she wanted to be seen for her actions and behaviors. And so she basically made a mix of like boiling water and like spices and thorns and all this fucked up shit. Threw it over her face to ruin her complexion.
What?
And is like, well, you all now see me for my actions now that you're not distracted.
Holy shit.
And that punk as fuck. Which is like, I don't identify with doing that. But that's punk as fuck.
That's amazing.
I didn't know that
punk. Story.
Yeah, it's a good one, right? That's
That's
there a more
crazy.
punk rock figure in Catholicism you've ever heard of?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's a really good one.
There's not a whole lot of punk rock in Catholicism in general.
I like being pretty. I would like to be prettier, so I don't know what it's like to be so pretty that it's upsetting.
Yeah. That's not something you struggle with?
Sounds hard.
Yeah.
Saint Rose.
Yeah.
But it's cool as punk. It's punk as fuck.
Yeah.
To be taken seriously as a person.
You don't care about being popular. You care about what your actions say.
Yeah.
And that's very punk rock. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Okay. All right, my next one, I think is again kind of a little bit of an obvious one, but Malcolm X is so punk rock.
Yep. Great.
When I was in 7th grade, I did a project on him that opened my eyes to so many injustices and stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And, obviously, like, it was like kind of a project on him and then the Black Panthers as well. And that was around the time, again, when like I'm starting to listen to The Clash and to all this stuff. And
you're starting to think about like the world outside yourself a little bit.
And I remember I read his biography and I remember really, really admiring how he just didn't give a fuck what anyone said. Like, obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. is an amazing figure, but was also sort of like stayed in line with the sort of general things that people wanted him to do. Malcolm X was not that way.
No,
he just did whatever he wanted.
Less fucks given. Yeah.
So I've always admired him. Obviously, he's an amazing leader, but he's also very punk rock.
He's very punk rock. That's a good one. My next one, I have to sell it a little bit.
Okay.
Grigory Rasputin.
Okay.
As in the Romanovs. The Russian Romanovs.
No, I'm already on board.
Okay, yeah. So I was in high school. I was getting obsessed with punk rock around the time I got obsessed with the Romanovs and Rasputin.
Yeah, because what a tale. What a story.
600-page books about the Romanov Empire.
The whites versus the reds.
Biographies on... I was like very interested in this in high school. He is a snake, and I don't think he's a good guy.
No.
But... very punk rock that basically, the long story short, the spark notes here, is that King Nicholas goes and is distracted by a whole other business in another part of the country and completely leaves the homestead behind.
Yeah.
And Alexandria was left there, and she has not been... she's like a woman in... this time period in Russia. Like, she's not been taught to handle politics and policies.
Right.
She doesn't know how to run a country. She's left blind. She's got all of these kids. Her youngest son is anemic.
That sounds right.
Yeah, hemophiliac. I didn't even brush up on this. I was like, Rasputin, I wrote it down. I haven't brushed up on this at all. He was a hemophiliac, and they didn't have a way to, like, treat that at all at this point in time. It was very dangerous thing to be at this point in time. And Rasputin is this like holy man, and he is known to be sort of like a dark,
like a sorcerer,
dark magic guy.
Yeah,
but he's also considered like a holy man.
Yeah,
and he's supposed to have some kind of powers. And Alexandria is panicking about the welfare of the country, but mostly her son.
Her son, exactly.
Who's like supposed to be an heir.
Yeah. I think he was the male heir.
I should have brushed up on this more.
Okay, though.
Point is, Rasputin.
Yeah. If you don't agree, just get your own podcast.
If you want a podcast on Rasputin, they're probably out there. This one's about punk.
That's factually accurate. Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, is that not enough that I read a book about Lou Reed? What do you want from me? So Rasputin finds this opening.
Yeah.
He sneaks in. She's so vulnerable and so confused and looking for guidance. And he's like, I can heal your son. I can tell you what to do. And gets in her head, weasels his way in. And is basically the whole time plotting the downfall of them, and leads a riot and invades their capital, their palace. But he basically like sees this opportunity and he leads a revolt, but by being an inside man, by being a con man, by being like a sort of a spy and playing both sides. And the whole time what he's setting up is this revolt to take down the Romanov Empire. And
to have a socialist society.
To take down this imperialism and this like basically
so that people can have like a fair.
That's but like he's a shitty person and he's a creep. But he's punk as fuck, and also something else is punk as fuck about him is like you couldn't kill him. Do you know the stories?
Yeah, like
he was shot.
Yeah,
stabbed, drowned, poisoned. All these things were like, oh, he's dead now, and then like. Couldn't kill him. Died of natural causes.
What was that, you think?
I don't know. It's like he's a lot of mystery around him still. Also, I haven't read about this in
a long time.
18 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is shaky, but the point is true. The point of him being punk, he was leading this revolt. He was like a dark magic guy. He couldn't be killed. Like that's all very punk rock stuff.
I agree. I have to agree with that.
And I'm fascinated by him. I like him a little, but like you shouldn't like him.
Oh my god! But we're attracted to the bad boy.
I know.
You know
he's
what I mean?
I know.
Like, he's so dark and like mysterious and like.
Also, if you watch
you can't kill him. Like that's so hot.
The Fox movie Anastasia.
Yeah.
He has the best villain song of any villain movie, any kid's villain song ever. He is like, it's a great song. It's a banger.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, it's good. We'll listen to it.
We'll put that on the Spotify podcast. On the playlist.
I'll put it on our Instagram, you guys.
Love a Rasputin playlist. All right, so my next one, which is weirdly kind of like in line with... No, it's not really. But hear me out on this one.
Okay.
Nikola Tesla. So, are you aware of who Nikola Tesla is?
No.
So there was like Thomas Edison...
Okay.
And then there was Nikola Tesla in Europe doing, like, they're both sort of racing to create the...
Yeah.
And that's why in Europe they use DC, direct current, and in America we use AC, alternating current. Okay. So these are the two kind of fathers of electricity, right?
Okay.
Nikola Tesla had this sort of crazy, almost socialist idea that power should be free to everybody, that electricity should be free to everybody.
Yeah.
So that was, like, a very punk rock sort of, like... anti-capitalist view of like how this new technology that everyone's like, oh my god, like let's just give it away for free.
Yeah.
And direct current is so much cheaper to create and to use. And
really?
Which is like another thing. I wonder why the U.S. went with alternating current, so it can be controlled more. But
interesting. It's almost
Nikola Tesla was a very smart, sort of like people didn't really like it. Like nobody was like Thomas Edison was like this big deal.
Yeah.
And, like, nobody really cared about Nikola Tesla. But
he
was doing all this cool shit.
That's, like, often what's going on with a race to invent things. Mm-hmm. There's always somebody that is important that gets left behind. I read a book.
Am I right that it's Thomas Edison that did that in the U.S.? I think it is. If I'm not, get your own podcast, honestly.
I believe it.
The Nikola Tesla part is what matters.
I mean, that's what, he was challenging somebody.
Yeah, right.
I just read this book recently about the race to invent and perfect the electric guitar between Leo Fender and Les Paul.
Great
and it's
book.
called... The Birth of Loud, Leo Fender and Les Paul. And then a huge part of the book is about Bigsby, who was like the master of the acoustic, and he was like a craftsman. Leo was an inventor and a tinkerer. Les Paul was just a guitar player. Les Paul was a guitar player and performer. Yeah. And then Bigsby was like, knew the art
an engineer
of guitar and knew how to craft. And like, he's a huge part. The three of them used to sit together before they started competing and like, shoot the shit and plan stuff and hang out in the backyard. And he's like not even on the title of the book.
Plus, his guitars are so beautiful.
They are beautiful because that was his whole thing. It was like a physical art to him. Anyway, that's not my punk person. This is my Hear Me Out one.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't Rasputin.
That one was hard sell.
Bear with me, yeah.
But this one is like, one's a Hear Me Out. Like, that was a bear with me. This is a Hear Me Out. Okay. This is like a bad person. Okay. And we shouldn't look up to them.
Yeah.
And the way they went about their punk beliefs was bad, but their beliefs were punk. Like the Unabomber, like
okay.
Ted Kaczynski.
Dude, I just watched a whole show on him. Let's go.
Okay, so like he is against the way the world is moving forward. He's against technology. He's against he is a purist
the way that technology shapes our society.
He didn't like where it was going. Like he would have hated the iPhone.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, he wanted to be a little bit more of a purist, and like he was naive to resist it, but he wasn't wrong about the ramifications and what happened when the internet and technology became what it is. And there are a lot of things about it that he was predicting that were bad, and he had like this whole constitution about it, and he had his whole he had a belief system, and he was serious, and he went off the grid.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck y'all, society's fucked, I'm gonna do it my way. Like, should he have been the Unabomber? No.
Yeah, should he have tried another way than to sending bombs to people?
Yeah, should he have
who
just
were innocent people in his mind,
complete, horrible, bad person.
Like a genealogy, a person who studies genes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
that's like a very valuable person.
Why do you need to bomb that guy?
No.
He's
I know.
Not in charge of it.
Super bad person. Not a good influence. But
I hear where you're coming from.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
The fact is, let's just be real and have an honest conversations with ourselves. What he was resisting, and not the way he resisted it in violence, but the way he resisted it by drawing back from society and living his own life.
Yeah.
That part was punk rock.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
And then the way he went about it was super, super, super bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not condoning it.
We're not condoning that.
I'm just saying, matter of fact, his beliefs and way of living were punk. And I just think we should have an honest conversation about the Unabomber.
We just did.
Yeah.
We did so good.
I know. I hope people
I hear
still
you.
like
They
me.
actually don't even have to sell that to me at all.
Okay, yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
But now I forget my last one because I'm so excited about your Hear Me Out one.
Should we just do a whole episode on him, and then the whole time, every other sentence, we're like, he's a bad person, and I don't condone it.
But,
and then every sentence is a Hear Me Out.
Yeah.
You don't remember your last one?
Well, okay, so I don't remember, but I'll do the one that is the super obvious one, which is Joan of Arc. It's very, very, very punk rock.
Yeah. The only reason I was like, oh, this is too obvious for me to do is because I know the name from when you're so young, but to be honest, once we started talking about that, I was like, do I even really know this story? I actually don't even really know her story.
Well, she was a 15 or 16-year-old girl who was convinced that she had a divine voice in her, she was speaking to God, and that God told her to lead all of these French troops against the English oppressors.
I love a mentally ill woman.
God bless her. And you know what I will say about Joan of Arc? Okay, I will say this, fuck Morrissey, but the way that he portrays Joan of Arc is having a Walkman on and walking into the fire is very punk rock, and that's the way I picture her.
Is a Morrissey Smith song?
And now I know how Joan of Arc felt. As the flames rose to her Roman nose and her Walkman started to melt.
It's been a while since I was immature enough to listen to this.
But I always picture Joan of Arc now as having a Walkman on and being and walking into the fire.
Yeah, I know the line now that you say it.
That's the only contribution that Morrissey's ever given me.
Did you hear yesterday 2 double-decker buses got in a car accident in the UK?
No.
And everybody's like, I hope Morrissey's okay. All of Twitter. They're posting a picture of Morrissey and the headline is his quote.
Yeah.
It's just Morrissey jokes all day yesterday on Twitter. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's good. I mean, there's a lot of material there.
Yeah. I mean, and everybody hates him, so it's
Do you know who wasn't punk rock?
Morrissey. Not at all. He was...
You were so sincere. Not at all.
Because I care about when somebody's not punk and I care about when somebody's Morrissey.
Yeah.
Bothers me.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Did you do 5?
6 Saint Rose of Lima, Screaming Jay Hawkins, Rasputin, Simone Biles, and Unabomber.
Oh, nice. So we both did
We did them 5, yeah. I think we should do another one of these in a couple months.
Yeah.
I think every now and then we should just, like, step back from our deep dives about, like, music and photographers and all that, and just every now and then be like, remember, you can be punk without being punk, and do some of these, because there's so many examples out there.
And, like, also, please comment on what you have.
Send us yours and we'll do them.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Send us people who are surprisingly punk.
Yeah. And we left you, like, a very wide...
yeah, you can see that.
You can see that we went...
I know what one of yours was.
What was
before
it?
we sign off. The TV character, the movie character.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I will say this because... okay, I love this. So,
we're doing 11 now.
Rebel Without a Cause,
yeah.
right? James Dean, famous movie. There's this one scene where he's, like, sitting in the diner with all these, like, young kids who are, like, restless and, like, they're not happy with their way their life's going, and they don't want their parents, like, telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And
who does?
This one guy goes up to James Dean and he goes, like, what are you rebelling against? And James Dean goes, what do you got? And I'm like, damn, that's fucking
the coolest
punk rock
thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
I want somebody to ask me that so I can say that.
What do you got?
Yeah. Do you want to every now and then just ask me what I'm rebelling against?
For sure.
So I can say that.
Like, what are you rebelling against?
And I'll be like, Ollie.
What do you got?
What do you got? I'll do it a different way every time.
Yeah,
I'll be like, what do you got?
Hey, what do you got?
Let me ask you something, Ollie. What do you got?
Yeah, well, I don't know. What do you got?
You're like, oh no.
I panic so quickly sometimes. You're like, oh no, I don't know the answer.
It's so funny. Sometimes it's easy to, like, you know, I play my little Gemini tricks.
Yeah,
and
you're so
yeah. I'm like, I'm fucking with you.
It's a one-word
I try not to fuck with you too much.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like I just do it to everybody.
You're one of the few people that can fuck with me, so you should.
Yeah, I know.
I don't let many people get to me.
I think because we're so earnest with each other so much of the time.
Yeah.
That if I deliver something earnestly, like you're listening to me as a person, like you hear me.
Yeah.
And so, I'll be a little deadpan.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little prankster.
So this has been a mini episode of The Only Podcast That Matters.
Yes, thank you for listening. And if you didn't like it, get your own fucking podcast.
It's so fun. Just do it. Get your own podcast.
Yeah, we encourage it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.